This is it, ladies and gentlemen, the final episode of Inuyashiki. It's got action, it's got emotion, and it's also got a very strange cameo from the infamous Orange President of the United States, Donald Trump. The ending of the Inuyashiki anime series is honestly perfect in my opinion. There's nothing else that needs to be added. We don't need to know the ridiculous and mysterious backstory of this alien technology which transformed these two dudes into super-powered cyborgs. You can even get rid of the entire cyborg aspect and just have it as an old man trying to be a hero and a crazy kid who became a psychopath, and the overall message would still be the same. And this episode certainly dives into some pretty heavy themes. It was also probably one of the most feel-good episodes of Inuyashiki, very similar in tone to the first episode of the series, while still having a little element of danger with the return of Hiro Shishigami. So, what's the overall story of the final episode? Well, pretty much Earth is boned. They're about to be completely destroyed by a massive meteorite, and pretty much everybody's cashing in their checks, running wild, and realizing they only have a little bit of time to live. This is all surreal, to say the least, a lot of that having to do with the fact that this is a series that I thought was going to conclude with a big epic robot battle, and honestly, it never really happens, and yet I am not dissatisfied by what I've seen. Not to mention, this episode has got to have one of the most ridiculous and hilarious cameos that I have ever seen. When the world pretty much realizes that it's screwed, all of the leaders of the world are giving out their messages to the people, and one of them, of course, is Donald Trump, the current president of the United States of America. And I would say that they're doing, like, an over-the-top caricature of him, but honestly, it's to a T. This is Donald Trump in anime form, and they've perfected it in a really funny way. Even his English voice acting, despite the fact that it's done by, like, a Japanese person, clearly, still manages to sound a little bit like Donald Trump, which I think is really funny. And like the real-world Donald Trump, he basically says, everybody else is losers, everyone's gonna die, sucks to be you, I'm the best. It's just hilarious. I didn't expect that to happen, and seeing the hushed awe of Ichiro's family as Donald Trump appeared on the TV has got to be one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I couldn't believe that it was actually happening, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, it's certainly going to make this a time capsule of an anime series, and just me talking about Donald Trump is almost certainly going to date this review. But basically, that's the premise of the episode. The Earth is about to be destroyed, and everybody's trying to deal with it in their very own way. That, and Ichiro finally does reveal himself to his family in a very heartwarming scene where, despite the fact that he is a human cyborg, they still see him as the father of the family. And it's funny that him becoming a robot is actually what ended up bringing this family closer together. They end up going on a trip together, going over the prospect of a vacation. The son is a little more wary, and he's an interesting character in this episode, and really, it's the most development that we've actually gotten from his son. He's apparently bullied at school all of the time, which gets a nice little wrap-up at the very end of this episode, and he has some doubts about his father, but his father tells him everything just like it is. How he met this boy in the park who ended up getting the same powers as him, he decided to kill people, and of course Ichiro decided that he wanted to save people. That's all his son really wanted to know, but ultimately his son was inspired to be a hero just like his father. In fact, he actually wanted to be a robot, and he didn't want to die. However, that's when his father gives him the hard-earned lesson that being human and being able to die is truly what makes you human in the first place. It's a really heavy message, but I think it encapsulates perfectly the entire series. It's why life is so precious in the first place, because you die. It's something that you truly need to protect and really appreciate every single day, especially when a giant freaking space rock is about to freaking crash into the Earth. And this is when the series gets a little intense towards the end. I realized I was like halfway through the episode and I'm like, whoa, how are they going to wrap all this up? Hiro is still out there doing something, and just as soon as I thought that, We have a great scene where Ando returns to his home, and in his bedroom is Hiro. He's still missing the hands which were removed from his body and presumably the back of his head, and he just sits down with Ando and casually reads a manga by turning the pages with his feet. It's really funny and creepy at the same time. Funny because just look at the image of this dude laughing about a manga and turning the pages with his feet. And, of course, a little bit of dark humor thrown in there for the fact that this is freaking Hiro Shishigami, a guy who has killed untold numbers of people. And Ando himself has got to be crapping his pants during this situation, knowing that any second he's about to be killed. But no, Hiro just wants to sit there, hang out with his friend, and read some manga. It's as if it's like his final opportunity to basically grasp a small part of his humanity. And seeing as how Ando is like one of his very few friends, he's one of the few people that he wants to keep alive along with Shion, this is a very important scene. And very slyly, I have to admit, Ando walks out of the room, he calls Hiro, he comes back, and he boldly tells him that Ichiro is on his way. But before that can happen, Hiro runs away, and we don't see him again until the very end of the episode. The rest of the episode, however, is Inuyashiki basically making the declaration that he is going to save the Earth and try to destroy this meteor. He flies up into the sky, he makes it into space, and makes a really hilarious landing on this thing. And before he goes there, by the way, it is confirmed that it is water that officially powers them. And, he drinks a ton of water to the point where he ends up having, like, this big beer belly. It's friggin' hilarious. And then he starts to destroy the meteorite with all of his powers and the friggin' missiles and all that crap and the light attacks. And even with everything that he has, even with his super destructive powers, he cannot destroy the meteorite. He realizes that he doesn't have enough energy to be able to bring this thing down, and the Earth is basically dead. That is until, like a friggin' ninja, Hiro Shishigami shows up, standing right in front of the vision of the Earth, which is such an awesome scene. And this is when he decides that he still has people on the planet that he cares about, like Shion and Ando, and he doesn't want to see them die, so he decides that he's going to self-detonate to try and destroy the meteorite. It is an interesting scene, and it's something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the rundown, but there it is. That's the end of Hiro Shishigami. He blows up, and then you have Inuyashiki, who is shocked to see that the explosion did not actually destroy the meteorite. So he doesn't have enough power, he doesn't think he's going to be able to stop it, he has only one more option. And like the amazing hero that he is, he sacrifices his brand new super-powered robotic body to destroy the meteorite by self-detonating, thus saving the Earth. The episode ends with his family crying as they see the explosion. Earth is officially saved. We even get to learn that apparently his daughter Mari actually won a contest in Shonen Jump magazine, and she got her comic in there, which is pretty freaking awesome. She really wanted to show Oda up. We even get a really cool scene with his son, who's being picked on by the bullies from earlier on in the episode, and it looks like he finally decided to fight back. It's really awesome. He grew something of a backbone and might end up becoming a hero just like his father. Basically, everyone just sort of goes about their normal lives. It's a nice, simple ending that wraps up everything in a nice, neat package. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Inuyashiki, the final episode of the series? This was a great finale. It gave me everything, honestly, that I wanted from the series. Sure, they could have gotten more into why these guys have these powers, where they came from and everything, but really, at the core, that's not what Inuyashiki is about. And I think one of the biggest messages of this episode, or really one of the biggest questions of this episode, is that can someone truly redeem themselves after doing truly terrible things? I mean, I'm not even sure what to feel about Hiro Shishigami. I'm not so sure that I would, like, forgive him for those things, but I definitely pity him as a character to see that it's actually come this far and got to this ridiculous situation right here. It's good to know that there's still a piece of him that is human, the fact that he does care about people, but just like his new robotic form, it's just a perfect reflection of who he truly is. And him making himself self-detonate to destroy the asteroid, I think, was probably the best thing that could have happened for the series. They could have given us another action scene, but honestly, the one we got from the last episode, I think, was perfect perfect enough. It gave me exactly what I wanted to see from the series. Would I have liked more? Sure, but honestly, everything else about the show has been pretty freaking good so far. And this episode really managed to hit it home, especially all of the scenes with Ichiro interacting with his family and actually coming even closer to them. There was a scene where they were just standing by the river and looking into the sunset, and that scene was just so gorgeous, and for some odd reason gave me this strange nostalgic feeling. It was a really great moment, and there were a lot of those in this episode right here, as well as just a lot of really crazy moments. Like I said, that Donald Trump moment, man, who saw that coming? I mean, that was ridiculous. I cannot wait to see more exaggerated versions of Donald Trump in a number of other different anime series. I just think it's hilarious. I can't wait to hear what people are going to say about it either. Also, I just think the way they wrapped up Hiro Shishigami's story, like I said, I think it was just done really well. You know, he's a character that's hard to feel sympathy for, even when he does what he does at the end. And that's what I like about it. It gives me this not-so-clear sort of conflicted vision. It's a series that's going to make me think, and think for a while. It's the type of episode that I'm going to watch again, simply so I can see if my thoughts have actually changed, and to see what my thoughts are overall on the entire series, which, as a whole, I think Inuyashiki was pretty freaking solid. I mean, it definitely had some production issues. There were some moments that looked really freaking great. There were some that looked really, really bad. Sometimes the CG animation didn't work in certain situations, and they ended up looking a little too plasticky and almost like dolls. And then there are some moments where it really just adds to the overall style of the show. It was also tonally just a roller coaster of an anime series. Like I said, this episode and the first one are very heartwarming feeling. Like, there's not really any violence or anything crazy in them. And then the second episode, they just do this, like, bait and switch, and they just try to hit you with all of this, like, shock and gore and murder. And it completely changed how I felt about the series. And it was like that throughout the entire time. There were moments of extreme happy emotion and moments that just go into the darkest depths of the human soul. It's pretty freaking great. I love it. It's sort of a great study on a psychopath and a hero mentality and getting to see how they eventually clash. In many ways, it's sort of like a critique on the entire hero and supervillain relationship. I really like it, and it was very different, and I love the fact that our characters were very different unlike anything that I've seen before. Ichiro himself being an old man and being the main character was definitely, I still think, one of the most refreshing things about the show, just to get a perspective from something that's completely different from that. So yeah, this was great. It's definitely a series that I think everybody needs to check out at least once, if not twice. It has some issues, but for the most part, its storytelling, its visuals, and just the things it does that I've never seen before, making an anime worth seeing. Check it out. It's Inuyashiki. The final episode, in my opinion, like I said, I thought this was a perfect ending. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. It wrapped up everything exactly the way that I wanted it to. But maybe you think differently. Maybe you didn't like the final episode of Inuyashiki. Maybe you didn't like the entire series at all. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about this final episode and the entire Inuyashiki anime series. What you liked, what you didn't like, what you might change, and are you excited for the possibility of more Inuyashiki content in the future? Yes, there is a possible future for this series. Maybe not an anime, but I do know that they are making a live-action movie in Japan right now, which is all the rage of adapting mangas. But make sure to check out that trailer. It looks pretty ridiculous. But like I said, tell me all your thoughts. If you guys want to see my previous reviews of the Inuyashiki anime series, make sure to check out the playlist on the channel. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay damn down, baby.